Mark Connolly and Rick Ray are registered representatives and financial advisors with Park Avenue Securities, a registered broker deal and investment advisor. The information you will hear on this show is for information purposes only, and individual situations vary. The information should be relied upon only when coordinated with individual professional advice.
Do you think there are forces out there that are keeping you from achieving your financial goals? Deep in your heart, do you believe the game may be rigged against you? If you do, you need to listen to Big Money, Big Daddy with Mark Connolly and Rick Ray. They'll teach you how to avoid Big Daddy's wealth-destroying tactics. The Big Money, Big Daddy show starts right now.
You're listening to the Big Money, Big Daddy show. We are happy to have you this Thursday afternoon. This is Mark Conley, and I am here with Dale Pieper, and we have got a rocking show to give you today. We got so much information, so much going on. The world is crazy, and we're going to try to make some financial sense of it, and that's just how we operate on this show. I know last week we had a really good show, an interview in regards to, that was with David Henley over at Mariplex, and Dale, you were here doing that, and that's
a great time.
I love when we do those segments where we just have a chance to dive into the mind of there being entrepreneurs and business owners that are out there. We get to hear the insights that they have for their businesses and how they built them, and I just think it's great to see that in action. And I know we talk a lot about investing on the show, and but let's not forget what investing is. I mean, investing it's putting your money out there into the marketplace, and the marketplace is driven by entrepreneurs and business owners and all these forces. And so that's why I think it's a great time to really dive in and learn a lot about, what goes in the minds of these very successful people. We'll do more of that. However, today we're going to do something that's a little bit different, a little bit back on the investment strategy type of platform. And, we've got our coaching event this evening, and part of the coaching event that we're doing this evening, and it is a full event. I'll give some information about our upcoming ones here in a little bit. What we're doing is we're really diving into, how do you measure success or failure of a portfolio? I mean, do you look at, what if your portfolio, it didn't beat the S&P 500, or it wasn't beating your benchmarks last year or the year before? Does that mean that there's something wrong with the portfolio? And we're going to be going through this this evening, and it's going to be fantastic. And we'll give some recaps on the show here over the next couple of weeks as well. But the important thing to understand is part of that is, how do you measure performance, and how do you compare performance of one portfolio to another? Because part of doing that is the actual mathematical calculation that goes into measuring rate of return.
I hope everybody brought their pocket protectors today. It sounds like we're getting a little geeky on them.
But I think it's such an important topic, because we always throw around, I got 20%, or I did 10%, or I only got 5%, or whatever. Where does this percentage come from? And how is that percentage calculated? And, I'm actually sitting here looking at some of the disclosures that go into some of the investment statements that all firms, including ours, have about how the rate of return was calculated. And it's amazing, the details, the legalities. That's why lawyers got these jobs.
I know.
They got to write this stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it sounds simple when we're having a conversation about rates of returns, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. And that's why we're kind of spending the show today diving into that. What are the different ways to calculate rates of returns? What's the right way? What's the wrong way?
Yeah, I mean, you got $100,000 in an investment account, that's 10%. You say, okay, I got $110,000. Well, that's it. Well, what about if you were adding money and taking out money? What about if this was over a period of time? What are all the impacts that those what is the impact that those cash flows have on that rate of return, and how should it be measured? Because guess what? you might be interesting to know there are different ways to calculate it. So if you were measuring the performance of your portfolio from maybe one firm to another, what if one firm was using one type of formula and another firm was using another type of formula? Well, you'd have very different results, and you wouldn't know if you were comparing apples to apples. So that's what we're going to go into. And I think some people, maybe they've never even thought about this. Like they never were confused about how rate of return was calculated because they just assumed, well, it's just a mathematical calculation. How could it be different from one company to another?
Right.
And I think we're going to tell you. I guess we're not going to show you. I was going to say show you on the show, but I meant to say tell you on the show on that there is a difference. And what you don't know, you don't know. And that's part of what we believe in is we want you to know, because that is what we are about. We have found that investors that don't have some kind of core understanding of what they're doing and why, they will make mistakes, and that's why the actual results that you see investors get according to the Dalbar study are pretty pathetic. Most investors are getting between 3 and 4% per year return, and the market's typically averaging 9 or 10% according to the Dalbar study. Well, we want you to be getting the higher numbers. So that's why we do the show. That's why we do constant live coaching and education. That's why we do webinar coaching. And if this is not something you're a part of, if you're not coming to the live coaching this evening, you need to be on the list so that you are getting the invites. And in order to get on that list, it's easy. Just text the keyword daddy to 72727. Text the keyword daddy to 72727. Our next event actually is going to be on September 22nd. You're going to want to make sure you're there. These things fill up fast. You also can just call us if you want. 713-826-0426. 713-826-0426. And we'd be happy to make sure that you're on those lists for all the future upcoming live and webinar events. Or you may just want to set up a meeting, have us do a review, the portfolio MRI that we do, and tell you where you're at.
Coaching's important.
Yeah.
I think, would Michael Phelps be as good as he is without a coach?
That's right. Yeah, the Olympics have been awesome.
Fun to watch.
Yeah, it really is. So, okay. Well, let's dive into some of the information. The first thing that we want to talk about is the difference between average rate of return or annualized average rate of return. So I know that those
are all the same words, just rearranged, aren't they?
Average rate of return versus annualized. Yeah, well, you got the word annualized. There you go. So you've got to realize that not all returns reporting is created equal. And the fact of the matter is, someone that does understand this stuff, and you really almost have to have, a CFA to understand this stuff, but they could easily deceive you if they knew what they were doing and you did not know. So we're going to try to put something that's very complex into the 3 segments that we have on the show. So let's just talk about the most basic form of calculating rate of return, and that would be the average annual rate of return, which by definition is just the simple average of a series of annual rates of return. Okay?
What are the good things about that?
Well, it's simple to calculate and understand. I mean, that is
keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. Now the problem with it though is it actually ignores the impact of volatility and the effect that volatility has on performance. So I know everybody listening right now is like, okay, I'm going to change.
It's already complicated.
Yeah, I know.
And it's supposed to be simple.
This is the easy one.
Yeah.
Hey, this is the easy one. All right. So let's put it in an example format. I think that will help significantly. Let's just take $100,000 is what we've got. And let's say year number 1, you got a minus 50% rate of return. So now you've got
50,000.
There we go. All right. And then let's say that year 2, you get a 50% gain. So at the end of that, you got
not 100. 75,000.
Yeah. So you've got $75,000. And so let's put that in perspective. You invested $100,000 and you now have $75,000. Is that good or bad?
Not good.
It's not good. And if I use the average return methodology of just taking the average of plus 50 or minus 50 and plus 50 divided by 2, my rate of return is 0. Okay?
So there's the perception. If you told someone you got a 0% rate of return and they invested $100,000, they think they still have $100,000, but they get their statement and they get 75.
You ain't got $100,000. Oh,
that is not funny.
All right, so let's make sure we can get through annualized here before we got to go to the break, and well, I'll cover that in a little while. Okay, so annualized rate of return. So let's cover the definition. This is fun. The geometric average annual compound return achieved over the defined period of more than a year. Sorry, I don't know why. I guess we're geeks. So we think that's funny.
It's just once you get into it, you got to say just the geometric average. You've already lost everybody in their cars, like scratching their head. They have no idea what that is.
Okay.
Much less does anybody reading their statement.
Let me just say this. If you are looking at a return, you're going to want it to be the annualized rate of return, not the average. And because what the annualized rate of return does is it gives a more accurate representation of what the annual return was for the investor that does take into account the impact of the volatility. Okay. Of course, the disadvantage to this methodology is, how do you explain it? Because I'm trying right now and nobody's getting it with the words. I think the only way to explain this stuff is with an actual example.
That's why you got to come to coaching. You actually see the visuals with the commentating.
Yes. We can only do so much on the radio, folks.
Yeah.
Cut us some slack out there. Okay. So what we'll do is we're going to take the same example we had earlier where you have $100,000. And we have a minus 50% in the first year, so we go down to 50. Then we have plus 50% in the second year, so we go back up to 75,000. But in 2 years' time, you went from 100,000 to 75,000. If you use the average return, well, it said that you had a 0% return, but everybody looks at that and says, well, that can't be right. I've lost money. But if you use the annualized average, what in effect it's doing is it's saying it figures out what would the rate of return been each of those 2 years so that 100,000 ended up at 75,000. And the answer to that is
negative 13.4%.
There you go, Dale. You got it. You read that off the screen.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I cheated.
All right. So that is, you would believe that. And because that is accurate. Now, I mean, technically, both of them are accurate. I mean, there's
right from a calculation standpoint.
Yeah,
the simple answer is correct. From the annualized calculation, that is correct. So, which one is more accurate? In our opinion, is the annualized number. But they're both correct because in one scenario, yes, it was flat for 2 years, so it was 0%. But in annualized, it's negative 13.4%. over both of those years.
Right.
And they both get you to the same spot, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean it's simple. If I say which one's more indicative of what the reality is, I mean, I think everybody out there listening would say annualized. So you do need to make sure that you are dealing with annualized rates of return. However, the story doesn't stop there because it's just more complicated than the simple example of 100,000 did minus 50 plus 50, because the reality is you are probably like your 401k, right? You're adding money to it. You might take a loan against it or other accounts. Money goes in and goes out. It goes in and out on different dates, and the market's moving at the exact same time. So now what we're going to help you understand in the next segment is we're going to talk about simple return, money-weighted return, time-weighted return, and then we're going to ask you the question, do you even know how yours is calculated? So you didn't think about rate of return. You just thought everybody used the same. Now we've got you thinking, and that's what we want you to do. But this is why it is so important to work with an advisor who gets it, to work with an advisor who's willing to speak the truth, who will do what is in your best interest, not what is in a financial institution's best interest. You want to work with an advisory firm that wants to put that lifelong game plan together for you that gives you more certainty, not less. Not a plan based on luck, because that is, in fact, what our mission is at Wealth Design Group. That's why we do the live coaching, the webinar coaching, the radio show, because we've got to educate. And if you're not willing to be educated, and you're not willing to spend a little bit of time on your portfolio, I'm willing to bet you'll fail. It's no guarantee. You might succeed, but most people end up failing according to the studies that we look at. So if you want to be part of what we have, just text the keyword daddy to 72727. Text the keyword daddy to 72727, and you will receive an automated message, or call 713-826-0426.
Big money, big daddies.